everybody, for finding your seats, and thanks for coming to our first summer reading story time in the park in this hot weather today. There is a water bottle refill station inside the library, so if you run out of water and you need more for the kiddos, you can go inside and refill water bottles if you like. So summer reading started this week officially, so yay! Who got their reading logs this week already? You raise your hands if you got one. Val got one. I got mine. Oh, looks like we need to get some reading logs. So if you want, after story time, you can go inside and pick up your reading log. Today's story time is going to be live streamed and filmed by HCVN, and Matthew here is going to do it all for us. If you don't want to be in the camera, stay back away from this front view here. And that's all I got for announcements for today. All right, we'll wait for this next group to come and get settled in, and then we will start our first book for today. How many of you are excited for summer? Say Yahoo if you're excited. Make some noise. Woohoo! Good job. And our theme for this summer reading is Reading Colors Your World. So it's all about colors and crayons and art. Who likes doing art? I like it. It's fun. The first story we're going to read today is I Ain't Gonna Paint No More by Karen Beaumont. One day, my mama caught me painting pictures on the floor, and the ceiling, and the walls, and the curtains, and the door. And I heard my mama holler like I never did before. You ain't gonna paint no more. I ain't gonna paint no more, no more. I ain't gonna paint no more. That's what I say, but there ain't no way that I ain't gonna paint no more. So I take some red, and I paint my head. No, I ain't gonna paint no more. Oh, what the heck? Gonna paint my neck. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. Still, I just can't rest until I paint my chest. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. Guess there ain't no harm if I paint my, can you guess? Your right arm. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. I ain't gonna paint no more, no more. I ain't gonna paint no more. But I just can't stand not to paint my hand. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. Then I see some black. So I paint my back. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. Like an Easter egg, gonna paint my leg. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. Still, I can't complete till I paint my feet. Now I ain't gonna paint no more. I ain't gonna paint no more, no more. I ain't gonna paint no more. But I'm such a nut. Gonna paint my what? Y'all don't think, 'cause there ain't no paint. So I ain't gonna paint no more. That is the end. Alright, so our next story is a true story. It's non-fiction, and it's called Color by Ruth Heller. And I might walk around slowly, or if you want, I'll hold the pictures up and look carefully at the pictures, because this book talks about how a printer works. So when you print something from your computer, it tells us how the colors work on a printer. From pencils and markers and crayons and chalk, from paints in a tube, or a jar, or a box, comes colors, delicious, delectable, lush, applied by 10 fingers, 2 hands, or a brush, to paper or canvas, or less orthodox, to faces and t-shirts. And fences and walks. Then abracadabra, by hook and by crook, every one of those colors got into this book. They were printed by printers in 4 inky stages, and now they appear right here on these pages. Stage 1 is yellow, magenta stage 2. Stage 3, like the sea, is cyan blue. Black is stage 4, and the printers are through. The printers are some kind of wizards, I think. In minuscule dots, they apply all the ink. They apply all the ink to a surface that's white. Hocus and pocus, behold, what a sight! Black plus these primary colors comprise the only 4 inks in any printer. We call black a color, but that's problematic. Black should really be called achromatic. Achromatic means free from color. So yellows, magentas, and cyan blues are the primary hues that printers use. And the combination of any 2 produces a secondary hue. The secondary colors are seen, presto and changeo, orange, purple, and green. Now there are 6 colors to combine and mix. The colors continue their magic tricks. Look what happens when we take this clear page with colors on it and we turn it over. You see that? I'll do it one more time in case you missed it. The colors continue their magic tricks wherever they blend or combine or mix. Mix white with a color and call it a tint. But there's no white ink for printers to print, so with computers and cameras and lasers and screens and by other mechanical magical means, they shrink the dots and the colors fade. Mix black with a color and call it a shade. Mix red with a color to make it warm and blue to make it cool. And if you follow this very same rule, blues become warm and reds become cool. Cool colors recede and warm ones advance. Some colors together vibrate and dance. The splendor is gone and the color gets duller. Opposites on the wheel you can see are always called complementary. Now stare at the green and stare at the pink. Count to 30 and try not to blink. Then shift to the right and stare at the white. Have the colors switched? Complementary colors are truly bewitched. It's the weirdest thing I have ever seen. The green is pink and the pink is green. The color is magic, no doubt about that. If you're not convinced, I'll eat my hat. And then these back pages show, you guys can check this book out later if you'd like. The back pages show how the printer ink layers on the different colors to print a picture. Now, how many of you can count all the way to 30? So a lot of you. That's great news. So you guys can help me count to 30. And while you're counting, stare at this heart, this pink heart on the green. And then after you count to 30, when we get to 30, stare at the white page and you'll see the colors flip-flop. It's pretty cool. You have to stare really hard though, okay? So hold it up here so everyone can see. All right, are we ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Did it work for anyone? It did? For some of you. Yeah, you might have, sometimes you have to stare at it a little closer for it to work, but this is a cool trick you can play with colors. And you guys are awesome counters. So I have a little book friend. His name is Leo Leone, and he wrote this book called A Color of His Own. It's about a little chameleon. Do you know what a chameleon is? What's a chameleon? You're right, it's a little lizard that can change colors. They are a pretty cool animal. So parrots are green, goldfish are red, elephants are gray, pigs are pink. All animals have a color of their own. Except for chameleons. They change color wherever they go. On lemons, they are, what color? Yellow. In the heather, they are purple. And on the tiger, they are striped like tigers. One day, a chameleon who was sitting on a tiger's tail said to himself, "If I remain on a leaf, I shall be green forever, and so I too will have a color of my own." Do you think that will work? Let's find out. With this thought, he cheerfully climbed onto the greenest leaf. But in autumn, the leaf turned yellow, and so did the chameleon. Later, the leaf turned red, and the chameleon turned red. And then the winter winds blew the leaf from the branch, and with it, the chameleon. The chameleon was black in the long winter nights. But when spring came, he walked out into the green grass, and there he met another chameleon. He told his sad story. "Won't we ever have a color of our own?" he asked. "I'm afraid not," said the chameleon, who was older and wiser. "But," he added, "why don't we stay together? We will change color wherever we go, but you and I will always be alike." And so they remained side by side. They were green together, and purple, and yellow, and red with white polka dots, and they lived happily ever after. The end. All right. So I think it's time to move around a little bit because we've been sitting and listening to some stories. So if you're wearing red, stand up tall and shout hooray if you're wearing red. Is there anyone wearing red? I'm wearing red. Hooray! You're wearing, hooray! Good job. If you're wearing orange, stand up tall and shout hooray if you're wearing orange. Hooray! Hey, I see some orange. There's a lot of orange on. All right. If you're wearing blue, stand up tall and shout hooray. If you're wearing blue, hooray! A lot of blue. If you're wearing yellow, stand up tall and shout hooray. If you're wearing yellow, hooray! Good job. If you're wearing purple, stand up tall and shout hooray. If you're wearing purple, hooray! If you're wearing black, stand up tall and shout hooray. If you're wearing black, hooray! All right. Good job. All right, so our next story is another nonfiction story about a lady named Mary Blair who worked for Disney. How many of you like Disney movies? I do. They're really fun. And this is called Pocket Full of Colors, The Magical World of Mary Blair, Disney Artist Extraordinaire. Under a wide blue sky on a red dirt road, in a lemon yellow house, there lived a little girl named Mary. Other children collected marbles or dolls, but Mary collected colors of every shade and every hue. One day, Mary's parents announced they were moving out west. As she waved goodbye to the yellow house, Mary tucked her friend Lemon in her pocket. Mary would miss the happy home, but she had new colors to collect. Driving across the sun-bleached desert, Mary spied russet, taupe, and sienna. When she arrived in California, she glimpsed at the azure ocean and found groves of golden fruit dripping from verdant trees. In the city, she discovered steel gray buildings and mauve-tinted skies. Mary opened her sketchbook. She mixed her paints. She would save these shades for just the right time. When she was older, Mary went to art school. She met Lee. He showed her rosy pink and blushing red. She kept those colors in her heart. Together, Mary and Lee painted rainbows. But it was the Great Depression and people were poor. No one was buying rainbows, except one place. Mary landed a job at Walt Disney Studios, one of the first women to ever been hired. Finally, a place for her colors to run and dance and play as they pleased. But on her first day of work, the men in charge didn't want to talk about Cerulean or Solarian or Cerise, but they were only interested in black and white. Mary was told to follow the rules. She tried, but her colors were too vivid, too wild. When Mary turned in her work, all her ideas were rejected. Twinkling emerald skies? The men turned them blue. Magenta horses that could fly? The men made them brown and put them in a stable. Peach giraffes with tangerine spots? Her bosses just shook their heads. They didn't know what to make of her art. But Walt, the man who owned the company, did. He loved her colors so much, he asked Mary to join him on a trip to South America to meet some new ones. Mary delighted in the colors of Brazil, Argentina, and Peru. She worked hard to capture the vibrant scenery. When it was time to go home, Mary's bags burst with fuchsia, teal, aquamarine, indigo, lime green, and banana yellow. After Mary returned to Disney, her concept art for the studio's upcoming films grew even more adventurous. As she drew upon the eye-popping shades she discovered in South America, Cinderella needed a teal pumpkin coach, and the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland could only be aquamarine. And the mermaids in Peter Pan simply had to be lime green. This time, some of Mary's ideas were accepted, but most of her art was still considered too modern, too abstract, just not right. Mary's colors encouraged her to leave the men with their black lines and strict rules. So she did. Mary quickly found new work designing advertisements, illustrating picture books for children, and creating sets for plays and television commercials. She enjoyed the freedom of these new jobs, but Mary missed Walt. Then one day, out of the blue, her phone rang. It was Walt. "Mary, I have a project for you. I need your wild and beautiful colors," his voice boomed. Walt explained his idea to build a magical ride that would teach people about cultures from around the world. The ride had to be full of color, which meant there was only one person for the job. "Mary, you know about colors like I've never even heard of before." Mary smiled. Then she frowned as she remembered the rules and lines, the men in charge who didn't understand her colors and styles of art. There was only one way to answer. "Yes," said Mary. But her yes came with a condition. This time, Mary wanted to be the one in charge. Walt welcomed her aboard. Mary's paint seemed to sparkle when she hung up the phone. She had never been to places like China or Morocco or Kathmandu, but her colors had. Sitting down to work, she squeezed out dabs of paint, lemon yellow, aquamarine, and azure, mauve, taupe, and tangerine, russet, sienna, and steel gray, celadon, cerulean, cerusse, magenta, teal, indigo, and emerald shined from her palette. And when she picked up her brush, the colors Mary had so carefully collected all her life, and it took her on a trip around the globe. When the work was done and the ride opened, people gasped in awe. "It's a Small World" was a sensation. When it was Mary's turn to take the ride, she leaned back in the boat and let her colors wash over her. It was a world of laughter, a world of smiles, and color everywhere. This, at last, was Mary's world. And she helped design one of the first Disneyland rides. And then that's a picture of her sitting with Walt Disney working together. You can see? Right there. I'll kind of walk around so you can see. That's a picture of the real Mary and Walt Disney together. So she helped make Disney movies and TV shows and children's books. And she even helped make the first ride at Disney World. She's a pretty cool artist. All right. And our last book for today, because it's getting pretty warm out here, I'm going to read one more. And Pete the Cat, Crayons Rock. Pete the Cat is one of my favorites. Pete loves his big box of groovy crayons. He loves to draw things like cars, trucks, flowers, and trees, and most of all, the big blue sea. From Rockin' Red to Cool Cat Blue with a box of crayons, there's nothing Pete can't do. One day, Pete decided to draw something new. His friends. Using lots of colors is so much fun, Pete wanted to use every one. He scribbled and drew a great big smile. His drawings were groovy and rockin' with style. Crayons rock. Pete was proud of the pictures he drew. He hoped his friends would dig them too. Pete showed Grumpy Toad first. Grumpy Toad said, "This don't this doesn't look right. Those colors are way too bright. Pete thought, hey, no sweat, that's all right. The next one will be dynamite. Pete showed Gus his picture too. Gus asked, who is this supposed to be? It doesn't really look like me. Pete thought, hey, no sweat, that's all right. The next one will be just right. Finally, Pete showed Callie her picture. Callie said, this one is fine, but it feels like something is missing from mine. Pete said, what a mess! Bummer, I guess my drawings aren't the best. Pete started to frown. He put his crayons down. Oh no. In art class, the teacher asked, Pete, what are you going to make? I don't know. I'm afraid of making a mistake. Pete looked around. Gus drew the coolest superheroes. Callie's flowers were awesome out of sight. Grumpy's motorcycle was just right. Pete's heart sank. His paper was blank. The gang looked at Pete and said, no sweat, it's all right. It doesn't have to be just right. Your art is cool because it's you. Your art is so unique. Grab your groovy box of crayons and show us your technique. The teacher agreed. Art should be fun. Art is for everyone. From Rockin' Red to Cool Cat Blue, with a box of crayons, there's nothing you can't do. Pete smiled. There are no rules. It's no big deal. Art is about how it makes you feel. Pete loved his cool art. That's the one thing Pete knew. Suddenly, Pete knew exactly what to do. He tried again. Instead of drawing them one by one, Pete drew the whole gang, just having fun. Wow, way to go, Pete. That's a rockin' masterpiece. Grumpy Toad, Gus, and Callie agreed. Pete's picture was off the charts. See? That's the groovy thing about art. The best art comes from the heart. Crayons rock. Well, that's the end of story time for today. We'll do it again next week. Same place. We'll probably set up here again in the shade. So we'll see you again next week at 10 o'clock. If you need to check out books or get reading hubs, you can go on into the library. All right, bye. Thanks for coming.